You've probably heard about the mysterious metallic sphere floating over the city of Buga in Colombia, then crashing down into the nearby hills. Is the Buga Sphere a legitimate UAP, a secret tech, or an elaborate hoax? After digging in, I found some red flags that are hard to ignore, and they're making me lean toward it being fake. First, the video itself. Lots of cuts, lots of edits. Why not show the entire clip? Unless they are hiding something, which I will later point out what that is. Then the design. The orb in the sky and the one on the ground don't really match. The flying one looks like a simple chrome ball, with none of the structure or details we see on the one recovered from the ground. And those carvings? They just feel off. Too crude for something that's supposed to come from an advanced civilization, the kind of people who could laser cut ancient monuments. These wobbly lines just don't fit that narrative. So how was it done, you may ask? My best guess, 2 separate props, one for the sky and another for the ground. How did they make the one in the sky fly? You can get a hint from this specific cut. The moment the orb passes over the eyewitness. Why don't we see it fly directly above the camera? Instead, there's a jump cut right there. Probably because it would reveal the entire rig. Most likely a drone flying a lightweight chrome ball hanging from a fishing line. And the drone noise? Easy to edit out. Just swap it later with some nature ambient sounds in the post. So yeah, after looking closely, this one is probably man-made. But that's not going to stop us from watching the skies. Because sometimes real mysteries do drop out of the blue. Just ask anyone who remembers the Buga Sphere. 2 new videos have surfaced, supposedly filmed on May 7th, showing what would later be known as the Buga Sphere. Let's state the obvious. This is probably the same object filmed twice. In fact, you can clearly see the second camera operator in video 1, likely filming with his phone. Now ask yourself, does it really make sense that an alien orb just shows up in broad daylight, low to the ground, performing a little show going back and forth multiple times so they can get a good shot? That's suspicious, and it points more toward this being staged and probably flown by a drone. And notice how, unlike the earlier footage, this new clip suddenly shows a painted design on the sphere matching the crash-landed one. Almost like they heard the online feedback and decided to upgrade the prop. Finally, let's stay grounded. Most of these spherical UFOs floating over cities are probably balloons. But the ones that zig when the wind zags, the ones that shift direction with intent, that's when things get interesting. Like the ones skywatchers have filmed in remote areas using dog whistle tech and psionic methods to catch them off guard. That's the kind of thing in the sky worth watching. What's up with the new findings of fiber optics in the Buga Sphere? Are they really sensors or just reflections of the microscope's lights? Here's what we know. According to the engineers, they've captured 6 fiber optics in each microsphere using a supposed 8 LED microscope. But how do we verify that? After all, if you look up handheld digital microscopes, they can come in both 6 LED and 8 LED configurations. In fact, in one live view, we can clearly see the supposed 8 LED microscope capturing 8 light reflections on each microsphere, which makes sense. But what about those 6 light cases? The answer lies in the actual live footage. Crucially, the microscope itself. If you look closely, you'll notice this specific microscope has a visible brand name, unlike the one we saw earlier without any branding. When you search for a handheld digital microscope that features both a monitor and a branding label beneath it, only one model currently fits that description. And when you compare them side by side, it's almost a perfect match. here's the kicker. This specific microscope has 6 LEDs, which aligns perfectly with the reflections we see on the big monitor. So, problem solved. These are just light reflections. But hold on, a few might argue that the reflections should move with the camera as it pans and tilts. But remember, we are looking through a microscope. A tiny nudge, even a millimeter, translates into a massive shift at this scale. So even a small movement would barely shift the reflections of the lights. Here's a 3D recreation showing that effect. Notice how the reflections barely move, even with noticeable camera movement. And let's be honest, if these were really sensors, wouldn't they be arranged more neatly rather than scattered randomly with inconsistent shapes and sizes? So until we see another live feed, one that actually shows an 8 LED microscope producing 6 reflections, or better yet, live footage, not an altered still image that clearly shows both 6 and 8 light configurations in the same frame, the optical fiber theory remains at best a case of smoke and mirrors. The National Autonomous University of Mexico, UNAM, has not found any fiber optics in the extracted piece from the Buga Sphere. The report is based on the initial images taken by the 2 engineers who originally proposed the fiber optic theory.
Se llevó a un análisis más profundo con equipos más sofisticados, más potentes, y se pudo descubrir entonces la presencia de fibra que en esas imágenes estaba destrozada.
The engineers now claim that any supposed fiber optics were destroyed during the extraction process.
Fibra óptica estaba destrozada por la mecánica que se utilizó para.
But we know that's probably not the case. In reality, they were never there in the first place. They were simply reflections from the LED lights of the microscope. As a matter of fact, the National Autonomous University of Mexico is no longer supporting the fiber optics theory. It's just the engineer's personal opinion now.
¿Qué tan importante es esto?
Para mí es muy importante porque la fibra óptica, esto ya no es parte de la universidad, ya es mi argumento personal.
Perhaps UNAM's scientists have realized it too. The fiber optics were just a trick of the light, nothing more. Let's talk about Buga Sphere one last time. We've got new footage from the engineers, this time using yet another type of microscope, and in my opinion, it's the smoking gun. This is LED reflections, not optic fibers. If you look up the exact model of the microscope, it has 8 LEDs arranged in the same layout we see in the footage, complete with those big gaps at each side. And let's not forget those dots we see in all images around the microspheres. They are just the LED lights bouncing off the glass cover and getting reflected again through the microsphere. It's time for the team to get a photo expert on site to clear this up once and for all. These are reflections, not fiber optics. Case closed.